And that is why today, my friends, we are creating the Union Army in RimWorld. We needed help. We needed a hero. Dear God, what is this? From the transport pod bursted Abraham Lincoln himself. Stupid video. Stupid rat knight. This guy knows nothing of history. If he even read a book, he's probably ugly too. Unlike me, I'm so handsome and smart. He's probably not even a real historian. Probably not.
Well, I wish I was in the land of cotton. Old times, they are not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland.
That's right, baby, Rat Daddy is back with more Union Army videos, and this time around, it's actually going to be a series. Now, with that being said, a lot has went on since our original Union Army video. General Sawyer and Abraham Lincoln, along with Lincoln's massive power armor, have been attacking several Confederate settlements. And for the most part, they've been doing quite well, as you can see, but we still have plenty of work to do. However, with this town liberated, there was nothing left to do but take down the silly Confederate flag and put up old glory once more. Ah, yes. Let freedom ring from every corner of this planet, and so it shall. Without further ado, though, it's time for us to move on to other Confederate cities, as we have chains to break, peoples to liberate, and a whole smorgasbord of freedom to deliver. Conveniently, there is another Confederate city right next to this one, and if this one is pretty good, maybe we'll turn it into a base of operations for a while. And if it's not, we'll burn it to the ground. Shortly after making it to the city, we could tell that it was just thriving with Confederate soldiers. However, funny enough, believe it or not, they were not the only ones taking up arms against us. Not only was it the Confederate soldiers, but also the townspeople. Unfortunately for them, though, we were going to take this town whether they liked it or not. And anyone who stood in the way of our liberation of this territory would be horrendously defeated one way or another. So of course, as they all gathered in the town center awaiting our arrival, we began marching on the city. Lincoln led the charge against the city with his massive auto turret. Followed shortly behind was General Sawyer and our Union boys. Naturally, Lincoln was the first in the city, and as the others followed shortly behind him, he began mowing down every single soldier that came out to attack him. Those poor dumb fools, to think that they could even stand a chance against Abraham Lincoln with his auto turret and his mech suit. Once good old Abe had obliterated the majority of the Confederate soldiers, they began to flee the city, which, let's be honest, is probably the best decision they could have made. Our Union boys followed shortly behind them, firing at them as they ran. But now with the battle won, there was but one thing left to do. Get rid of this flag. Oh man, I bet some of you guys are pissed, aren't you? Okay, look, let's pause for just a moment. This needs to be touched on before we go any further. In the original Union Army video, quite a lot of people seem to kind of get upset that I'm saying these things about defeating the Confederacy and stuff like that. And originally, in that video, that's not what I intended. I didn't mean to piss anybody off or anything like that, but just know that I don't really give a shit. I'm going to continue doing it. And yes, I will say that this video was originally going to be me kind of dunking on you guys for getting upset about that original video, because I really didn't say anything too bad, but everyone is entitled to their own opinions. So even if you don't agree with my satire joking around about beating the shit out of the Confederacy and this fictional video game, fictional world, whatever, who gives a shit? We can all agree that Rat Knight is making another banging ass series. Now sit down, shut up, and let's enjoy this. After defeating the Confederacy and running them out of the city, we heard some noises coming out of a small building just on the city limits. The building walls were a bit of a problem, but we did what every American does with a problem. We shot it until it was gone. And within this building were five people who had been enslaved, but no longer. We came to break their chains. We gave them the option whether to go on about their lives anywhere they pleased or pick up arms and join us. And so they did. They equipped themselves with the old Confederate rifles, and we had 5 new members in the Union Army. We went around and began finishing off any enemy troops to ensure that they didn't heal over time and get back up and fight again. And now with any last remaining flames of rebellion stomped out in the city, we decided to make it our own. We decided to set up our base here, at least for the time being, but we would still need to go around to each individual building and clear it out and see if there's any resources that we can actually use. After that was completed, of course, we would begin tearing down some of the buildings for their resources, and we would also begin tilling a massive field to plant some rice in. And you know, people always comment and say, you're playing as an American colony, why do you always plant rice? I know we're Americans, but what am I supposed to plant? Cheeseburgers, for God's sake? Actually... maybe later, not right now. Anyhow though, we would also begin clearing out a massive brewery that the Confederacy had in this city. Now, we were actually going to use it for a storage room. However, it's not going to do us any good if we can't see a damn thing that we're trying to store in here, so we've decided to use something a little unethical. Electricity. Now look, I know a lot of you probably want me to stay within the correct era for this series, but I'm not going to do that because in typical Rat Night fashion, I'm going to make some really weird shit. So right now you may be watching us build a kitchen and a food storage area, and then another 2 or 3 episodes you might see us taking on some massive Confederate mechs or some shit. I don't know, I'm crazy. We'll see where it goes. Now speaking of our food storage area and kitchen though, we began building some electric stoves. That way we can make sure our Union boys are nice and well fed. Because just as my dear old dad used to say, son, I'll be back after I get cigarettes. Is he coming back? But you know who probably did have a father? Our Union soldiers, because look how happy they are. Or maybe they're just happy to be sharing some meals with the people they love. Speaking of meals, it's time for us to hightail it and start fixing some of the damn things, so we began hunting some animals and then of course cooking said animals into meatloafs, pot roast, meat pies, I don't know, sandwiches probably, just really anything we could shove down our gullets. Oh, speaking of shoving things down gullets, it's the Confederacy come to take another ass whipping, have they? Well, it won't be the first time or the last that we've beat these graybacks into submission. And honestly, Abraham Lincoln's mono sword is thirsting for blood. Feed me. Whoa, easy, Tiger, you'll have your chance, I'm sure. I'm sure you'll tear right through these weaklings like butter. Wait a minute, what's... Oh shit. Stonewall Jackson. In a damn mech suit. Carrying a flamethrower no less. We're gonna crack that mech suit wide open and pull your corpse out. Or something along those lines. Our men would be well ready for the Confederate onslaught. Just as before, Lincoln would lead the way. But as they began surrounding the city, Lincoln would fall back with the other men. For they would make a stand together here today, and he would stand with his men. For a house divided against itself cannot stand. And we, the Union, are standing united here today. After a few hours of spanking some rebel ass, they decided to tuck tail and run away. Naturally, of course, though, we couldn't just let them get away, so we chased down as many as we could, including Stonewall Jackson. Naturally, of course, though, Lincoln had a vendetta out against him, and also Lincoln was the only other person wearing power armor, of course. After catching up with Jackson, Lincoln would unleash the mono sword upon him. The earth shook as their massive blows hit one another, and then... Stonewall had been defeated. But of course, Lincoln and his soldiers didn't stop there. They continued to fight off the fleeing rebels until there were no more in the area. The rebels had caused some massive fires to break out in our storage room, just as well as our field full of crops and just basically anywhere that they could. But unfortunately, I am sad to say that even these massive raging fires were not the worst damage that was done. For we had lost 2 of our men during the battle. But their bravery, courage, and their sacrifice will not go in vain. We will continue the mission. We will continue to fight on for what they and we believe in. And you know, we began to think, what if these Confederate Johnnies here on the ground, what if we could try to convince them that their way of thinking is wrong and try to make them think like us and maybe even join the Union? So we began recruitment attempts so that they wouldn't have to suffer the same fate as their comrades. But there's still some unanswered questions, like how did Stonewall Jackson get that power armor? As far as we know, the Union are the only ones in possession of such technologies. Could it be possibly that the Confederacy is developing its own technologies for weapons and armors and just things of that sort? And why is it that all the rebel soldiers look identical and they're all named Johnny or Johnny Heavy or just Johnny something? What a weird name. It's all just very, very strange, and it's not really adding up. What's going on here and who is behind all this? A super special thanks to my patrons for making this video as well as all videos on this channel possible. I really could not do it without you guys. You guys rock, and I just love you. I love all of you. I'd like to thank you all for watching the episode, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.